Hello, this is Chip Desard, and this is the assignment, module number 5, I want to say, and it's dealing with cultural interview. And I wanted to just tell you about my experience with this cultural interview. So, what I did, I pulled from the questions that were given to us on Blackboard and created about a 9-minute interview with a student, and I have that posted if you want to review that as well. So the name of the student was Libni Garcia. She's an 11th grader who grew up in the United States but was born in Mexico. Her parents speak Spanish fluently and speak very little English, and she's been educated in Baltimore City Public Schools all her life. She is my student, and I met her first day of school, and I could just tell she was serious, very quiet, seems kind of shy, but she followed really everything I've said so far, and so far she's doing very well in my class. So I want to go through the interview questions and what I've learned from Libni. So the interview questions, what I learned from her about jobs in Mexico, and acceptable jobs in Mexico are agricultural. If you have a farm, if you work in a paper store, if you do anything with crops, that's very, very successful because actually, you can make money doing that. Working in restaurants, surprisingly, aren't acceptable here. And, we see a lot of Mexicans work in restaurants, work in cleaning jobs and things like that. But they do that because they have to. And especially if they're not, legal, they want to get those types of low wage jobs. But really, lawyers, doctors are great jobs. And really what I found in this interview that the parents want them to do much better than what they have done. Celebrations, the one I'm more familiar with is Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. A lot of people just go out. Unfortunately, Americans go out and just drink. They don't know why, but it's just an excuse for them. But then the one that just came in September, called September 16th, is Grito de Dolores. That is the Independence Day. So that's a very big deal in Mexican culture. Then religion, mainly Catholic. And, so if they're Catholic, that means they're pro-life. They're really all about keeping the cycle of life going, and very, very, and especially in a lot of Mexican families, what she has told me is that religion plays a very, very key part. Interaction with adults is all about respect. I've noticed that from my student and all of the students. In my first school, I had one student that was Hispanic or Latino, and now I have about 70 students that I teach, maybe 70, 80 students. I have about 20. So about a third, maybe, 60 some third of students are Latino. So that is a big, big shift for me in this school. All right. So here's some more interviews. And I said this already, at least on the left with jobs and celebrations. That's just a repeat. But really what struck me about boyfriend and girlfriend, and that was all about age 15. And she told me that you can get punished if found out that they are dating. He said 15 and 5 months. She was very specific with that. I just never heard of that before. And, at least in my culture, we don't really have an age. They say you can date at this age. It just kind of happens. And the kids just tell you, oh, by the way, I have a boyfriend. And you find out, sneaky that your kids have boyfriends or girlfriends. Naming, it's all about biblical names. It goes back to the Catholic, Jesus, Guadalupe, a lot of different, biblical names that are there from the Catholic Church and from the Bible. So and then how people are dressed. Many people aren't married because they don't have the money. And they are dressed senora, but there's some kind of cultural thing. I didn't get it really out of her on the interview that if somebody is not married, how they want to be addressed. So just from a little bit of Spanish and a little bit I know senora, or I know in Spanish, it's about respect. When you say the word, and you, and, instead of you, it's como esta, and then it's muy bien, and you say, and you, And if I say y usted, that means we are just acquaintances. And if I say y tú, that's tu with an accent mark, I know from my Spanish that means you're more familiar. So there's things in the culture and words that we don't have in English that they have, that they can be more familiar with each other through different words. And even though you say señorita or señora, like for instance, we call everybody, even if they're Mrs. in the school, we'll say, hey, Miss McConnell, even though we know she is Mrs. McConnell, but she'll understand that it is Mrs. McConnell. But in their culture, they have to say Senora McConnell and not Senorita, because Senorita is not, that's a little girl to them. So I know that. How they view time is they're always late. I can relate. My culture is like that too. So I'm always late 1 hour, and I fight that all the time, 30 minutes late. So that was pretty right in line with what I'm used to. Health and medicine. This is what I'm not used to, is they do not use medicine. So this is a funny story here, that the young lady I interviewed the same day, she came to me saying she wanted to see the nurse because she had an earache. She wasn't feeling well, but she was there. She did all of her work. And then she said she trusts what the grandmother uses. For example, a sore throat, they give them lemons. For an earache, she said her uncle smokes, and something that they have that they roll up and they smoke that in her ear for an earache. So these kind of old wives' tales, things that we would look at voodoo medicine here in the U.S., that really doesn't work with them. So teaching strategies. I realize with my Latino students, and like I said, I have about a third of my students are Latino, and that's probably a very, very diverse school. It's more African American, but I have about 20%, almost 30% of my kids are Latino. So I need to give written and verbal instructions. I realize that if I'm up teaching a program, I need to actually write the instructions either on a board or have it on a PowerPoint or have it printed out for them. And if I just go up and just go around and walk and tell them, that doesn't work really well. I also need to have the advanced ELL students help each other. I know that Libni is pretty advanced. So what I know, she sits near another guy named Alexis and another ELL student. So I always team them up together, and I make her help. I ask her to help him, especially when we're doing a unit on Photoshop. That's really helped. And then I really need to talk to their parents and share progress, because I think education is very important to their culture, and they just don't want to be called when something goes wrong. So it's up to me. And I know the first thing I think is, they won't understand me. But we have in our city, Baltimore City at least, we have a language line. We have a person in our school that deals with nothing. She speaks many languages. So we have an expert language person, and a line that I can call to do translation. And then the last thing with the teaching strategies, I want to recognize and celebrate differences in culture and in the classroom. And I think that's important. And I think that we know any classroom that you have to recognize that, the differences. I didn't recognize that, that the Hispanic culture, Latino culture, at least, that they don't really, like medicine like that. I didn't know that. So sending her to the nurse, I sent her to the nurse, but she went to the nurse after class. Usually if I send a kid to a nurse, they run to the nurse because that gets them out of class. No, she wanted to finish the class, and then she said, give me a pass to go to the nurse after it. So that was totally different for me. And also just how they treat teachers with respect. I never have behavioral problems from any of my Latino kids. Maybe one, but it's not crazy. But, I get him right back in line. But by and large, the respect is so huge. All right, so this goes right into my reflection. Education is very important to Mexican culture. They view education as a privilege, line of right, because over there, that's another thing I forgot to say, is that they have education up to the 6th grade because they have to pay for higher education past the 6th grade. So a lot of people drop out. A lot of people don't have the money. They're very poor. And then respect is given to all adults and teachers. And I've realized that I've never had behavioral problems, only just one small thing with the Mexican and Hispanic students that I've had thus far. And then I want to share with them how CTE education can lead them to a better way of life. And, if they don't want to be, washing dishes or cashiers or anything like that, how about, being an artist or being a photographer or doing something that is very different than what is stereotypically seen as, maids or cleanup people or construction workers or anything like that. So those are the things that I wanted to just talk about and say in my cultural reflection and my cultural interview for this assignment.